9th MRB on point. Hoo-ah. Welcome to Legends, a series that delves into the lore within Horizon Zero Dawn, a world with an abundance of powerful and moving history begging to be explored. Today, we once again highlight the events of Operation Enduring Victory, Life's last stand against the robotic plague. Though extinction was an inevitability, those on the front lines were given false hope in the form of a super weapons program dubbed Project Zero Dawn. Despite this deception, those who fought showed untold bravery in the most dire of times, in particular, the men and women of the 9th Mechanized Response Brigade. Before we dive into their extraordinary legacy, it's important to understand where these individuals' lives had taken them just before the Pharaoh Plague. A glimpse of this can be seen from the log of Corporal Sarai A, as she reflects on her enlistment. Looking back, I thought 64 was shaping up to be a pretty good year. No more drinking, no more mercenary sec work, stripping offshore wind farms for the OEZ, just me and a plasma cutter 400 feet above sea level. Then I got the recall alert, read them up on a turbine and the smell of cooking ozone. They covered every angle: better pay, amnesty for any Combine wars you'd fought in, guaranteed citizenship. We should have thought, okay, what's the catch? But what we did think was, I guess we're better than the bots after all. Big talk from Harris about pride and duty. Smart guy. He was right. I'd been proud to be a US soldier. I jumped at the chance to be one again. And look what I landed in. In the year 2055, the United States military disbanded all human combat forces in favor of automated robotics. In this, it's estimated that more than 1 million soldiers were left without employment. They, along with countless others affected by automation, were forced to find work elsewhere. For a time, China and the Oceanic Economic Zone still had use for a human workforce, so many made the migration. Other former military signed with private military corporations, acting as mercenaries predominantly for businesses more than political groups. Leading up to the plague, many of the globe's most powerful companies vied for superiority not only in the free market, but on the actual battlefield. These Combine wars, such as when the Hartz Corporation and TG Communications sent their robotic war fleets to do battle for resources in the Bahamas, were commonplace, and often required experienced military personnel to tip the scales in their favor. During the formation of Operation Enduring Victory is when these soldiers would be called back to fight for their respective countries. Combat forces were broken into two main groups: civilian guard brigades, comprised of those who had enlisted with no combat experience and ultimately received little training due to the impending conflict, and the mechanized response brigades, made up of those former military who had been disbanded nearly a decade before. Sources seem to indicate where civilian battalions entrenched themselves and made up for the bulk of humanity's defensive lines, MRB units were Enduring Victory's more mobile and versatile fighting forces, aiding those that needed more expertise and additional leadership in the fight. Additionally, these infantry troops would be supported by armored battalions on land and fighters in the air, as FAS had cleared out their previous production slate of robotics manufacturing to fabricate the necessary human-operated vehicles and weapon systems for the war to come. Due to the nature of their position, the mechanized response brigades were often at the heart of the most severe engagements against the Swarm, a role that was epitomized by the 9th. Led by Commanding Officer Lieutenant Fiona Morell, the 9th alone was involved in approximately 20 separate battles with the Pharaoh Swarm over the first 4 months of combat alone. They, along with the 6th MRB, took down a Horus-class Titan at Lithium Beach, which at the time was a huge boost in morale for those fighting for their survival. Unfortunately, as the war went on, and countless more fell to the Swarm, this optimism would quickly fade. As the Swarm approached the United States, it would first hit in the east, a process that was elaborated on in Log Corporal Acosta, B.
Log. First battle of the eastern seaboard wall. Had a long run up to it. This was before Kalmar, and projections were a lot worse for the east. For 3 weeks we kept getting scrambled out to some coastal burg to train Minutemen. It was always raining on account of Europe already being torched. Block after block of prefab barracks. They were still printing barracks right up until the hour the main force hit. The Minutemen? We ran combat drills with them in the streets where they'd lived, trying to pretend they might live to die somewhere else if they paid attention. Nothing worse than the ones who actually bought into it. Hopeful, pestering us with questions about Zero Dawn like we know something they don't. I swear. The more we do this, the more like the bots we are. Except they learn from every fight. And us? I'm not so sure.
They next came to the defense of the West. The 9th and 15th, along with many others, would defend the Pacific coast. For 3 consecutive battles of the California Marine, they held the swarm before they would eventually be routed, but not before downing yet another Horus. Records next placed them once again in the Eastern Theater as part of Operation Body Blow. There in Akron, Ohio, along with the 10th MRB and sustained aerial strikes, they logged a 3rd Titan kill, a feat in the present lore that remains unrivaled by their contemporaries. Though finding individual success, humanity's defenses were on their last leg. U.S. Robot Command had begun pulling back troops from their positions to reinforce the Wichita salient in Kansas, while the 9th was assigned to refitting to prepare for their next assignment. Presumably, at some point during this downtime, Lieutenant Morrell sent her unit status report to USRC.
Status report. 9th Mechanized Response Brigade, Commanding Officer Lieutenant Fiona Morrell. Unit morale continues to be adversely impacted by outbound engagements against the Pharaoh Plague, especially when said engagements occur in sectors where civilian Guard enlistees have been heavily engaged. The scope and nature of fatalities suffered by civilian Guard and unarmed civilians in these sectors defy description. And witnessing it is generating a pervasive sense of hopelessness in the unit. Accordingly, I once again request that deployments of the 9th MRB be temporarily refocused on facilities that are mission critical to Project Zero Dawn. And once again, I request an immediate update on the status of Project Zero Dawn's timeline.
This correspondence was rejected for delivery. In December of 2065, 5 Horus-class Titans converged on the Wichita Theater and broke through defensive lines. The war had served its purpose. Zero Dawn was functionally complete. Yet the 9th would apparently not meet their end in Wichita, but face their final battle atop the peaks of what we know now as the Grave Horde. There, now frozen and lifeless in the ice, the 9th, the Reckon Recalls, fought to their last, as a Horus ripped through the OEV facility. Even then, the warriors felled several scarabs before finally meeting their inevitable end. Though no one in the New World may know their stories, or even be aware of their existence, their heroic efforts, along with the rest of Enduring Victory, paid the ultimate price to ensure life would have a future. And that brings our journey to an end. If you'd like to see more content like this, likes and shares are always appreciated, and if you really like what we're doing at the channel, come join our community and hit that subscribe button. Also consider supporting the channel on Patreon to help us create new series and to supply more quality content just like this. Check out the link in the description. Today's topic came from one of you, our awesome subscribers, so if you have a great idea or an interesting question that could lead to our next episode, let us know in the comments down below. And until next time, thanks for watching and keep questing.